We've been talking about Seattle's top priorities, and for us, it always starts with the offensive line, certainly after watching this season. Is that where you look at when it comes to the Seahawks first?
Yeah, 100%. The interior of the offensive line, like you guys were just talking about, it wasn't good enough this year. There's no doubt about it. And it was nice to see Abe Lucas obviously come back from the injury, something that he's had to deal with throughout his career. It sounded like at the end of the year, he said, hey, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty healthy, which is good to see. You were wondering if that knee problem for him was going to be something that was really going to linger throughout his NFL career, maybe shorten it a lot quicker than his talent would have wanted it to. But it seems like he's okay. And so I think you go into next season saying, hey, we got our offensive tackles. We just got to figure it out on the inside. And so I don't know if you're going to use the number 18 overall pick. I was just kind of listening to you guys before you brought me in. I don't know if that number 18 pick is going to be used on the interior offensive line, but I got to think some free agent funds and some picks within the middle round, second, third, fourth round. Maybe you're looking to get some new options in there.
Yeah, I think that's my hope. When it comes to drafting high, obviously guards don't typically go that high. You go tackle or something like that. But is a move or two good enough to see Geno take another step? Because I think obviously here in Seattle, people are frustrated with his interceptions, but he was also like the fourth or fifth most pressured quarterback in the game. Is it as simple as, okay, well, get Geno some protection and he should be fine, or do you see other flaws in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Geno would probably be one of the first to tell you, like, okay, well, it's on him a little bit too, right? He throws the interceptions, but it is a team game, and I think that if you fix the offensive line, or if you get the interior offensive line, if the interior offensive line is a lot better, I think that there's well within reason to believe that a step up in efficiency is going to be there for Geno Smith. You love the big time throws. I mean, like, you don't want to coach or teach that mentality out of him. It's just eliminating some of the bad plays while keeping a lot of those big throws in there. And that's, of course, the balance that every good quarterback in this league is going to do. But for Seattle Seahawks fans and some that might be going after Geno Smith, first and foremost, I think Geno's great. Like, if Geno were to be on the trade market, he's probably quarterback number one of any of these teams that need a quarterback, whether it's the guys that are supposed to hit free agency, the Russell Wilson or Justin Fields or Sam Darnold or maybe Kirk Cousins, depending on what happens with his situation. If Geno becomes available for trade, you could throw in the draftable guys too, right? You could throw in Cam Ward, you could throw in Shedeur Sanders. Geno Smith's at the top of the list. So if there's some Seattle fans out there that wish that they would move on from Geno Smith, he is, in my opinion, the best that is out there right now. So to me, it is much more of a situation for them of really fortify what he has around him, and I think you're going to still see good quarterback play from him going into next year.
I understand that context of the market, limited options in the draft, and kind of a weird free agency is what makes that statement true for you, and I don't disagree with you, but I wanted to explore the reasoning a little bit more, Trevor. When you do look at Geno, what makes you say, I think he'd be QB1 in terms of trade value right now?
Because he gives you the ability to hit the throws that you need to in any given week to win in this league. And it's just not a guarantee with a lot of these other guys. Like, take Russell Wilson, for example. Russell Wilson didn't turn the ball over a lot this season. He's a very risk-averse, kind of conservative quarterback, especially at this point in his career. He hit a couple of good big-time throws down the stretch toward the second half of the season, but he doesn't really have that in him. That's not in his nature as a quarterback to attempt and go after those throws that you need to have in order to win football games. And he had been at that point, for a lot of points, I should say, during his tenure with the Seattle Seahawks. The Russell Wilson moonball and the deep passes, like, that existed while he was with the Seahawks. It's not really in his identity right now. And I would say the same thing with Justin Fields. And for as much as Sam Darnold played really well this year, we kind of saw down the stretch when you really need him to attempt a lot of those throws when his back is against the wall, especially under pressure, it's hard to ask him to be able to do that. It's hard for him to change his stripes in that regard from what we have seen. Even though the floor seems to be elevated for Sam Darnold, what's the ceiling like? I don't worry about the ceiling with Geno Smith. I think he's got the ability to attempt some of the most difficult throws and the required throws that you need to hit to beat some of the best quarterbacks in this league. So yes, the turnovers are frustrating. You want to be able to limit those more than what we saw last season from him. But it is that ceiling that he brings as a quarterback that makes me think, okay, well, if you're going to bet on any of these guys and you happen to be throwing Geno Smith into either the free agency pool, the available trade pool, or the draft pool of quarterbacks, give me that guy, because I've seen him do it already at an NFL level.
Defensively, we saw this team take a step towards the end of the year. I think Ernest Jones was big. they're going to get his deal figured out, and then Tyrese Knight there as well. But there's a name, man, Kobe Bryant, who I felt like did a great job filling in and then just taking that spot at that safety position. What do you think the future is with Kobe Bryant and this team?
No, I mean, I think that they were able to figure it out, like you said, down the stretch. And I think that you look at the secondary overall, and it's a little bit like the Geno Smith conversation where it's like, okay, we like the guys that we have in there. We just have to play better. And I think that is a big story. It's a frustrating reality for fans to come to that conclusion because you want to be able to point the finger. You want to be able to point blame and say, no, this was wrong, and this means that we get to change this, and then that will make me feel better because we're going to play better next year no matter what. I like the guys that they have in the secondary in Seattle. They've just got to play better than they did last year, and that's kind of the NFL. The margin for error is very low, but I do like what Kobe was able to do, and I like that secondary. I like Reek Woolen. I like I love Devon Witherspoon, and so I like a lot of the guys that are in that room, and so maybe a couple additions here and there, maybe another outside corner to fortify the depth, maybe get another starter depending on how you look at that room. But I think I like a lot of the guys that are in their secondary.
Trevor, before I get to my next question, which is about the draft and a couple positions of strength, I wanted to ask you, are you out at Super Bowl Media Row? I saw you tweeting about New Orleans.
I am. Yes, I am out there. The reason why I am currently broadcasting here from the hotel is because the Wi-Fi was giving us fits this afternoon, and so I wanted to make sure that even though the background isn't as good, I didn't want to drop any of the quality for y'all's show because y'all deserve the high quality.
Oh, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. I wanted to ask just like what the scenes are like out there. I mean, who's like the most have you had any weird interactions? Have you seen anyone so incredibly famous you're like, I can't believe this person's in front of me? What's it been like?
Well, Stephen A. Smith was here yesterday,
okay.
And it's pretty crazy when he walks into the room. Everybody they know exactly who he is. They're wondering where he's going, which show he's popping on to do. But the Super Bowl Media Week is a giant who's who of a lot of former, current players. I mean, on the PFF table where we were doing our shows, we had Warren Moon, we had Thurman Thomas, we had a couple of those guys that by today. That was a lot of fun to catch up with those guys. But then we got a lot of different media members too, like Bomani Jones was at our table, Sam Schwartzstein, who does so much great work for Amazon Prime on the analytics side of things. And so we've had a lot of people come through just our desk, but you look around and today was a big player day. Like I saw Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young, Joe Burrow, Jahmyr Gibbs, just so many different players. Aaron Jones was there. So there's so many guys that come through like towards the end of the week. Thursday's the big day where we get a lot of the players and then a lot of the entourages too. Walking space becomes at a premium because it's not just Jaden Daniels. It's Jaden Daniels and,
the squad,
his family and his handler and the PR person and the videographer and the social media. But, hey, that's what happens when you have the year like he did. So it's always a fun time here on Super Bowl Media Row.
Yeah, let's talk about the Super Bowl, man. Jalen Hurts versus Pat Mahomes. I was doing a segment, and I mentioned that Pat Mahomes tends to turn the football over in the Super Bowl. I believe in 4 games, he's got 5 interceptions, and that's going to be big. Do you see a way that Philadelphia can force these turnovers with their D-line and everyone else on that defensive side?
Yeah, it's attacking one of the few weaknesses that I feel like the Kansas City Chiefs have, and that comes to left guard, right? You're kicking Joe Thuney out to left tackle, and that's what they've done to mitigate some of the problems that they've had at offensive tackle. But Caliendo, their left guard who they put in there, I mean, he has not been good. 43.8 pass blocking grade, throughout these playoffs, and since Thuney has kicked out to that left tackle spot. And Philly's got 2 really good ones on the interior, and Jalen Carter and Milton Williams, who are having a great season. That's not even to mention the massive man that is Jordan Davis. So Philly's defensive line's playing really well, and Patrick Mahomes, he plays great under pressure, but still, I mean, like that's the recipe that you want. Rattle him a little bit, make him get rid of the ball a little bit sooner than he wants to, even for Patrick Mahomes standards. And so, yeah, I mean, you've really got to be able to get after this guy. And for me, it's all about how Vic Fangio, their defensive coordinator, exploits the Chiefs' biggest weakness, which is that spot at left guard, and how they're going to be able to do that.
Both of these teams have drafted exceptionally well. The Eagles, maybe the most talented roster in football this year, and the Chiefs have managed to replenish so many positions around Patrick Mahomes. As a lead draft analyst for Pro Football Focus, Trevor, is there something that you can recognize about the approach these front offices take to the draft? It could even be recent classes, just something you really appreciate about it?
Yeah, I mean, Howie Roseman, not to say anything bad about Brett Veach because he's been unbelievable as well with Kansas City, but Howie Roseman is giving general managers the blueprint of how you want to build a team. And there have been times in the past where, okay, maybe they draft a defensive lineman before it's an immediate need, or a cornerback before it's an immediate need, or an offensive lineman. We've seen this plenty of times before it's an immediate need. But now they're in a situation where even if they have guys that get hurt and go down along the offensive and defensive lines, they just got another guy right in there. They've got another player right in there who's ready to step in, and that next man up mentality. And so Howie, I've just loved how he has approached the draft over the last 4 to 5 years to say, we're not really going to let injuries be an excuse for us. And we're going to play that next man up mentality in the areas that are the most important, and that's in the trenches. And so, of course, the skill position players are a big deal. Trading for A.J. Brown was a big deal. Getting the corners that they have, trading for Darius Slay, and then drafting Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Like, all of that is obviously very important for them. But I think the way that they have drafted, continuing to prioritize and never letting talent be an issue along both of their trenches is the reason why they are here for the second time in 3 years.
Chris Jones and Jalen Carter are two names that I'm going to watch. And then I've thrown in Nolan Smith as well. I don't think people are giving him enough credit, man. And you look at the way these teams have been successful, it's with surrounding Jalen Hurts with a whole bunch of talent and then allowing Pat Mahomes just to be a good quarterback and be clutch in these late situations. Which team do you think the Hawks can resemble the most? I think I know the answer to this because there's somebody called Pat Mahomes on one side of the football or on one team.
Hard to replicate.
But do you see a path? Do you see a path where the Hawks can kind of mimic maybe years from now what's going on with these two teams when you look at who they have in place now?
It's hard to mimic the Chiefs just because they are. When I say lucky, I don't mean this as like any slight to them, but they have one of the best defensive tackles to ever play the game at a really important pass rushing position that means so much. They have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, and we can safely say that already with Patrick Mahomes. They have one of the greatest coaches to ever coach the game in Andy Reid. And then an element of this that I don't think gets enough credit, even to this day, they have what is, in my opinion, a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo, who has been a part of this recent dynasty for them for the longest time. And it's so hard to say, yeah, let's just replicate that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's so hard to say that you can even replicate what the Chiefs are doing. But like, I love to the point of the Seattle Seahawks. Like, I love Mike Macdonald. Like, I really love his just eye for the game. And I read more about, and I'm sure this isn't the whole story, but I read about everything that happened with Ryan Grubb and kind of the fallout there and how they thought it was a really great decision, and then it sort of turned out to not be. And this was an organization that went, you know what? We thought this was going to be a really good fit, and it just wasn't. And they made the move. And I think that from what I have learned about sort of what went into this, they made the move for the right reasons. And being a head coach, or I should just say a decision maker in this league, it's not about batting 1,000. It's about understanding that you're always going to learn along the way. Like, again, Howie Roseman, for example, I just praised him as general manager. Howie didn't bat 1,000, certainly when he first became the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, but he was given time and to learn and become wise within his position. And I just feel as though Mike Macdonald is one of those coaches where I feel like he could be a great coach in this league. So to me, the answer to your question is that you want to be able to replicate what the Eagles are doing more because it's more about team building, consistently building through the trenches. That's the blueprint you want to have because the blueprint for the the blueprint for the Chiefs involves getting one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, and that's a little bit tough to replicate. But on that side of things, the coaching and wisdom side of things, I do feel as though Mike Macdonald can be a great coach in this league for many, many years. And I just feel as though even through the struggles of this year, we saw signs of him going, you know what, okay, I'm learning things along the way, and the idea is to just not make mistakes twice and make sure that you're always moving forward. And I really do have faith in him to be able to do that.